Welcome to this new lesson. This is the solution video for this rock concert poster, so I'm going to be recreating this. So I've created a new project, just a square image with right now a white background. I'm going to add a new solid color black background to this, so I'm just going to lock that layer in place. Next, I'm going to add some text. I have my font as Bungee, so you might not have this font, but you can, if you're following along and want to do the same kind of poster, you can find that online or just use a different sort of bold font. Now, I'm going to make this bigger. You'll notice, though, a couple things that I want to mention. So let me first put this on two different lines, like so. Now, there's a couple different ways to increase the size of font, and I'll show you the difference. So if I just take my Move tool, you can actually resize text this way. So I'm taking my Move tool, selecting the outer handle, and I'm increasing the size. And that's going to take your font, and it will actually increase the font size. So you can see here 219, and if I make this bigger, it becomes 251. When I'm doing this, though, it's doing everything proportionately. Say I go in here and I select my font with my text tool, and then I increase the size this way, you'll start to notice that the font, the text starts to become layered on top of each other. And that's because my leading, or the space between lines, is set to 185. And when adjusting the font size this way, just with this font points, it's not adjusting the leading as well. And so what you might want to do is if you're doing more of a graphic design project like this, is set the leading to what you want it to be. I like how it's touching just a little bit like so. And then using your Move tool, you can resize it to be the size that you want. So I like having it kind of over the edges just a little bit, something like that. We'll start from there. We can always change this later. I'm also going to change the color of this to that sort of blue, or some sort of blue that we can start out with. Cool. All right. You'll notice that in my original project, I sort of created this 3D style that makes the text look sort of 3D. I simply did that by duplicating this layer and then moving the bottom layer actually. So let's take this bottom layer. Let's change the color and make it a little bit darker so we can see it. And then I just moved it down and to the right, just a little bit. And I'm going to make this even darker. Something like so. So I think that's a pretty cool, quick trick to make your text look a little bit 3D. You can also go in here and add a drop shadow effect and adjust those settings. So let me turn off this rock text, and if we double click our top rock text layer, you can get your layer styles. We've seen this before, and this is a good point to show you drop shadow. Now, because we're on a dark background, we're going to want to change our color to something else. So when we click that color picker, we have our eyedropper, as we typically do when this color picker window pops up. So I can click our color of our text right here to start from there and then drop this down to something like that. You're going to want to change the blend mode to something like normal. And then you play with the distance and spread and also the opacity. So I'm going to increase the opacity up here. And depending on if you want it to be blurred, you can adjust the size and spread settings. And then also the angle to put this, let's make this a little bit further, bigger. So I'm doing something very similar to what I did with the multiple layers, using just this layer style. And this is a cool option because it keeps your layer panel rather clean. So see, now this is an effect that is applied to this layer rather than having a separate layer itself. Two ways to get a similar effect, right? So either way you want to do that. With this one, I am going to leave that drop shadow effect on and do it that way. Next, we have this concert text that's kind of floating up. So remember how we were able to create a text on a path? We're going to use our curvature pen tool and create a line like so. See how it goes up? Take our text tool, hover over that line. Whoops. Let's go back to let's turn off the rock text really quickly. Take our text tool, hover over that line. It was kind of hard to see. Now we'll say concert. We'll change this font to, it was bakery. Let's get out of that Creative Cloud and then type in bakery. This is another font you might not have. Change the color to white and then make it a lot bigger. And then let's change the path where it starts. So using our path selection tool, let's move it a little bit forward on this path, something like that. And now if we turn back our rock text and put this concert text on top, we can use the move tool to move it around, resize it. And again, using the move tool to resize the text now also will increase the path size itself. So once you're happy with how the text is laid out on the path, it might be a better idea to adjust the size of your text with the move tool rather than going in here and adjusting the font, because that's going to adjust the text based off of where it is on the path, and it might change actually the shaping of the text. Hopefully that makes a little sense. So I'm going to delete that shape down below that we created because we don't need it. Next, I just added these details for where it's at, when it is, and this is using a font called Gil Sans. So let's just add another text layer. Now you'll notice that when I clicked to add a new text layer, it selected this rock text. So what I might want to do is lock this in place so I can go ahead and click somewhere else. And it's being tricky with me. It's thinking I want to select that text. I don't want to. So what I want to do is let me just turn that off really quick. Type in there in the blank space. Let's change the font to Gil Sans. We're going to make it white. I added these little slashes just as sort of a graphic design flourish. Town Square. Let's just make this caps. Let's add a little bit of space between these letters. So this kerning. Now let's put this over our rock concert text. Put it within the R, like so. I think light is a little bit too thin. So let's make it regular. That looks pretty good. And to just copy this, just holding Option, I'm going to click and drag this down here. And I forget when, I think it was January 1999. 1999. And I think that looks pretty cool. Now I'm just going to take our font. Oops, you'll notice that if you click the tab button, it kind of gives you a cleaner view of your project. So I accidentally clicked that, but that's just something to note, is if you want to kind of view your project without all the toolbars and panels, click that tab button. Now I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. Something like that. It's a little bit different than my original one, but I think that's pretty close, pretty neat. Let's move this down. Let's then move our other font layers down just a little bit. Something like that's kind of cool. So that's how I created my rock concert graphic design poster. You learned a couple new tricks here, that tab button. You also learned about adjusting font sizes and things like that. So hopefully this was very beneficial to you, and I can't wait to see your graphics. Share them with me. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next lesson.